The invitation had arrived on cream-colored cardstock with gold embossing. Kevin Henderson Financial Advisors, Grand Opening Reception. Below that in smaller script, join us as we celebrate our move to prestigious premier business tower. I'd stared at the invitation for a long time before RSVPing. Kevin's new office represented everything he'd been working toward for the past 5 years. The prestige, the image, the validation he'd been seeking. It also represented everything he thought I lacked. Standing in the elevator on my way to the 15th floor, I adjusted my simple black blazer and tried to prepare myself for the evening ahead. Kevin's events were always performances, carefully choreographed to showcase his success and, inevitably, to highlight my apparent lack thereof. The elevator doors opened to reveal a stunning reception space. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered panoramic views of downtown, gleaming marble floors reflected the city lights, and servers in crisp white uniforms circulated with champagne and canapés. Kevin had spared no expense. "Alex." Mom spotted me first, rushing over in her new dress. Probably bought specifically for tonight. "Isn't this incredible? Kevin has really made something of himself." "It's beautiful," I agreed, accepting a champagne flute from a passing server. 1,500 square feet, Dad added proudly, appearing beside her. "Corner office with downtown views. Classic commercial space. The rent alone is more than most people's mortgages." I winced internally at that last comment, knowing exactly how much Kevin was paying. $12,000 a month plus utilities and fees. Through the management company that handled my properties, I'd watched him negotiate aggressively for this space, leveraging himself dangerously thin to secure it. "There's my strip mall sister." Kevin's voice boomed across the reception area, causing heads to turn. He strode toward me with his arms spread wide, his smile bright and false. At 32, my younger brother had perfected the art of the backhanded greeting. "Kevin, congratulations. The office is stunning." "Thank you. It really is something, isn't it?" He gestured grandly at the space around us. "Finally escaped those dingy strip mall days. God, remember when I had that tiny office next to the nail salon? So embarrassing." Several of his colleagues had gathered around us now, drawn by Kevin's theatrical energy. I recognized a few faces from his social media posts. Other financial advisors, some lawyers, a couple of real estate brokers. The kind of professionals who understood the importance of image in building client relationships. "Alex here knows all about strip malls," Kevin announced to the group, his tone warm but condescending. "She's been running her little consulting business out of one for years now. Very authentic." The group chuckled politely, the way people do when they're not sure if they're supposed to be laughing. I kept my expression neutral, used to being Kevin's comedic relief at family gatherings. "What kind of consulting?" asked a woman in an expensive suit, her tone suggesting genuine curiosity mixed with pity. "Business advisory stuff," Kevin answered before I could respond. "You know, helping small shops with their books, maybe some basic business planning. Very grassroots." "How noble," another colleague added, the word carrying just enough emphasis to make it sound like an insult. "The thing is," Kevin continued, warming to his theme, "Alex has always been comfortable with simpler things. And there's nothing wrong with that. Not everyone needs to operate at this level." He gestured around the gleaming office. "Some people are perfectly happy in strip malls. Real businesses don't operate from strip malls," declared a man I didn't recognize, tall, silver-haired, wearing a watch that probably cost more than most people's cars. Unlike some people we know. He shot me a meaningful look, clearly following Kevin's lead. The group murmured agreement. I could see the judgment in their eyes. Poor Kevin having to deal with his unsuccessful sister's embarrassing business choices. Now, Mom interjected, though her voice carried more uncertainty than conviction. "Alex works very hard." "Of course she does," Kevin said with exaggerated patience. "I'm not questioning her work ethic. I'm talking about ambition. About image. About understanding what it takes to build a serious professional practice." He turned to address the group more directly, using me as his case study. "See, Alex operates out of a strip center between a Chinese restaurant and a dry cleaner. And I get it, the rent is cheap, the overhead is low. But when you're trying to attract serious clients, location matters. Image matters. Perception is reality in business," agreed the silver-haired man. Your office space communicates your level of success before you even open your mouth. Exactly. Kevin's enthusiasm was building now. When clients come to see me here, he gestured at the panoramic windows and marble floors, they know immediately that they're dealing with someone who can deliver results. Someone who operates at their level. And when they have to park between a donut shop and a laundromat? Asked the woman in the expensive suit. Kevin shrugged eloquently. Well, it doesn't exactly inspire confidence, does it? More laughter from the group. I found myself studying their faces. These successful professionals who had probably never questioned whether their own worth was tied to their zip code. The problem with strip mall businesses, Kevin continued, is that they're inherently limited. You're surrounded by nail salons and pizza places and dollar stores. That's not the kind of environment that attracts serious money. Have you considered shared office space? The woman asked me directly, her tone sympathetic. There are some lovely co-working facilities downtown. Much more professional atmosphere. I appreciate the suggestion, I said quietly. The thing about Alex, Kevin said, his voice taking on that particular tone he used when he was about to deliver what he considered wisdom, is that she's never been comfortable with risk. Strip malls feel safe to her. Predictable. But you can't build anything significant without being willing to bet on yourself. Dad nodded thoughtfully. Kevin's always been the ambitious one in the family. Nothing wrong with playing it safe, the silver-haired man added. Not everyone has the vision to think bigger. I excused myself to get some air on the balcony, leaving Kevin to hold court with his colleagues. Through the glass doors I could see him continuing his lecture about professional image and the importance of prestigious addresses, using my strip mall office as his primary example of what not to do. What Kevin didn't know, what none of them knew, was that I'd been watching his financial struggles for months through the property management reports that crossed my desk. The fancy office came with overhead that was stretching his cash flow dangerously thin. His client list, while growing, wasn't generating enough revenue to support his monthly expenses. He'd taken on substantial debt to fund the move and the elaborate renovation. What they really didn't know was that Summit Commercial Properties, the company that owned Kevin's Class A commercial space, was a subsidiary of Henderson Business Advisory, my consulting firm. The irony wasn't lost on me. While Kevin was inside explaining to his colleagues why strip mall businesses were inherently limited, he was hemorrhaging money to impress people who would probably drop him the moment his success story faltered. My journey into commercial real estate had started accidentally 3 years earlier. A client, a small restaurant owner, had been struggling with an exploitative lease arrangement. In helping him navigate the situation, I discovered how many small businesses were being taken advantage of by predatory landlords and management companies. That discovery had led me to start acquiring properties, initially to provide my clients with stable, fairly priced commercial space. But what had begun as a client service had evolved into something much larger. My portfolio now included 14 commercial properties across 3 states, generating substantial passive income that funded both my consulting practice and further acquisitions. The premier business tower had been my most recent and most ambitious purchase. The previous owner had been neglecting maintenance and driving away quality tenants with poor management. I'd bought it through a shell company 18 months ago and spent considerable time and money turning it around. New management, infrastructure improvements, competitive pricing for quality businesses. Kevin had signed his lease 6 months ago, dealing with the professional management company I'd hired to handle day-to-day operations. He had no idea his sister was his landlord. He'd probably die of embarrassment if he knew his prestigious downtown address was actually subsidized by his unsuccessful strip mall sister. My phone buzzed with an email from my property manager. Kevin Henderson, Premier Business Tower, Unit 1534. Rent 60 days past due, checks bouncing. Standard termination protocol. I stared at the message for a long moment. Kevin was failing just as I'd suspected he would. The prestigious address was bleeding him dry, and he was about to lose everything he'd worked to build. I could fix it quietly. Cover his back rent through a shell account, adjust his lease terms, extend his payment deadline. Keep the peace and preserve his dignity while he figured out how to make his practice profitable. Or I could let him face the natural consequences of his choices, both financial and personal. Through the glass doors I could see him gesturing animatedly to his colleagues, probably still explaining why location was so crucial to business success. still using me as his example of limited thinking and small ambitions. I typed back, proceed with standard protocol. No exceptions. The next morning I was reviewing quarterly reports in my modest strip mall office when my assistant knocked. Alex, your brother is here. He says it's urgent. Kevin walked in looking like he hadn't slept, his usually perfect appearance disheveled. His expensive suit was wrinkled, his hair uncombed, and there were dark circles under his eyes. He glanced around my simple office with the same dismissive expression he'd worn the night before, taking in the basic furniture and strip mall view. We need to talk, he said without preamble, his voice strained. Of course. Have a seat. He remained standing, pacing in front of my desk like a caged animal. I'm in trouble, Alex. Serious financial trouble. What kind of trouble? The office. The rent is killing me. I thought moving to Premier Business Tower would bring in higher value clients faster, but it's taking longer than I projected. The overhead is crushing me. I kept my expression neutral, though I knew exactly what his financial statements looked like. How bad is it? I'm 2 months behind on rent. My business account can't cover the next payment. And the management company is completely inflexible. They sent a lease termination notice yesterday. He finally sat down, burying his face in his hands. If I lose that office, I lose everything. All my clients expect me to be in that building now. It's part of my brand, my professional identity. Have you tried negotiating with your landlord? Kevin looked up, his expression bitter. That's the problem. There is no negotiating. It's all handled through this property management company, and they just keep citing corporate policy and standard lease terms. I can't even find out who actually owns the building. What about your business income? Can't you adjust your cash flow? That's just it. The business is actually growing. I'm bringing in more clients every month. But the office overhead is eating up all the revenue growth. I was so focused on creating the right image that I didn't properly calculate the financial impact. I watched him carefully, seeing my younger brother stripped of all his usual bravado. What do you need, Kevin? I need help. I know you don't have much running your consulting practice out of here, but I thought maybe you could help me figure out a solution? Or even loan me something to get caught up. How much do you need? $34,000. That would cover back rent, late fees, and give me a couple months cushion to get my cash flow sorted out. I leaned back in my chair. What makes you think I have access to that kind of money? He gestured around my office dismissively. You don't have much overhead here. Strip mall rent is probably $2,000 or $3,000 a month. You must have built up some savings over the years. Kevin, what exactly do you think I do for work? He looked genuinely confused by the question. You're a business consultant. You help small businesses with their operations, maybe some bookkeeping, strategic planning. That kind of thing. That kind of thing? Well, yeah. Local small business stuff. Maybe some restaurants, retail shops. You know, small-scale operations. After 5 years of building a practice that had helped over 200 businesses optimize their operations, expand into new markets, and increase their profitability by an average of 40%, my own brother thought I provided basic bookkeeping services to mom-and-pop shops. Do you know any of my clients? I asked. Not specifically. I figured they were probably local, maybe some of the other businesses in your strip mall, restaurants around town. Small stuff, right? Small stuff. I repeated his words slowly, tasting the condescension. Alex, I'm not trying to be dismissive. I'm just being realistic about scale. Your operation here is obviously more limited than what I'm trying to build. Is it? Well, obviously. I mean, look around. He gestured at my basic office setup. Functional desk, standard chairs, simple filing system. It's fine for what you do, but it's not set up to handle major commercial operations. I opened my laptop and pulled up a file, turning the screen toward him. Kevin, I want to show you something. Alex, I really don't have time to look at your client presentations or whatever. I'm facing eviction in 30 days. Humor me. The screen showed the property management interface for Premier Business Tower, with a detailed list of all tenants, their lease terms and payment statuses. Kevin's name was highlighted in red with past due termination initiated next to it. Kevin stared at the screen, his expression shifting from impatience to confusion. What is this? This is the tenant management system for your building. He leaned forward, studying the screen more carefully. How do you have access to this? Are you working with the management company somehow? In a manner of speaking. I pulled up another screen showing the corporate structure of Summit Commercial Properties, the LLC that owned Premier Business Tower. At the top of the organizational chart was Henderson Business Advisory. My company. Kevin, I own your building. The words hung in the air between us. Kevin's face went through several distinct expressions: confusion, disbelief, and finally, dawning comprehension. You own the building? Through Summit Commercial Properties, yes. I acquired it 18 months ago. That's impossible. I pulled up the acquisition documents, the financial statements, the property improvement invoices. Kevin's face grew paler with each screen. You've been past due for 60 days, I continued matter-of-factly. Your checks have been bouncing for 3 weeks. The management company recommended standard lease termination procedures. You're my landlord? I'm your landlord. Kevin stared at the screen, then at me, then back at the screen. All this time, you've been collecting rent from me? All this time, you've been telling everyone how limited and unsuccessful I am. But you work out of a strip mall. I own this strip mall, Kevin. I own 14 commercial properties across 3 states. My consulting practice helps businesses acquire and optimize commercial real estate portfolios. What you call small business stuff generates enough revenue to buy downtown office buildings. Kevin's mouth opened and closed soundlessly. Last night at your party, you used me as your primary example of limited thinking. You told your colleagues that real businesses don't operate from strip malls. You laughed about my location between the Chinese restaurant and the dry cleaner. Alex, I had no idea. You had no idea because you never bothered to ask. You saw the strip mall address and made assumptions about my capabilities, my client base, and my revenue. He sat in stunned silence for several minutes, processing the implications. So when I got the termination notice, that was standard procedure for non-payment. The management company handles all tenant relations independently. They don't know you're my brother. Can you fix this? I studied his face carefully. Do you want me to fix it? Of course I want you to fix it. You're my sister. Am I? Because last night you seemed pretty eager to use me as a cautionary tale for your colleagues. Kevin flinched. That wasn't personal, Alex. It was just networking conversation. Business talk. It was personal to me, Kevin. It's been personal for 5 years of family gatherings where you've dismissed my work as cute or simple. It was personal every time you suggested I needed to think bigger or be more ambitious. I'm sorry. I really am sorry. I had no idea about your actual success. That's the thing, Kevin. Would it have mattered? If I really was just a small-time consultant helping local restaurants with their books, would that have made it okay to mock me publicly? He didn't answer immediately, which told me everything I needed to know. Here's what's going to happen, I said, closing the laptop. You're going to call the management company today and arrange a realistic payment plan for your back rent. You're going to start treating this lease as the serious financial obligation it is. And you'll let me stay? I'll let you stay if you can demonstrate that you're capable of running a financially responsible business. That means making your payments on time, maintaining professional conduct with other tenants, and maybe, just maybe, learning some respect for the people who've been supporting your success. Kevin nodded eagerly. Yes, absolutely. Whatever you need me to do. I also want you to think about something. Every business in this strip mall that you've been so dismissive of, the Chinese restaurant, the dry cleaner, the nail salon you used to be embarrassed about operating next to, they all pay their rent on time. They all run profitable operations that serve their communities. Maybe the lesson isn't about where you operate. Maybe it's about how you operate. You're absolutely right. I've been thinking about this all wrong. I stood up, indicating our meeting was over. The management company opens at 9. I suggest you call them before noon. As Kevin prepared to leave, he paused at the door. Alex. Yeah. Why didn't you tell us? About your success, your property portfolio, everything you've built. I looked around my modest office. The space where I'd built something meaningful and profitable while my family assumed I was barely getting by. Because success isn't about impressing people with expensive addresses, Kevin. It's about creating value, building sustainable systems, helping others succeed. I didn't need external validation to know my work was meaningful. But we could have been proud of you. We could have celebrated your achievements. You could have been proud of me anyway, I said quietly. Success or failure, strip mall or skyscraper, I'm still your sister. My worth isn't determined by my rent payment or my office views. After he left, I sat in my office for a while looking out at the strip mall parking lot. The Chinese restaurant was busy with the lunch crowd. They'd been my tenants for 4 years, never missed a payment, employed 12 people from the local community. The dry cleaner had been operating profitably for over a decade, providing essential services while maintaining excellent customer relationships. The nail salon was booked solid through next month, run by a Vietnamese immigrant family who'd built their American dream one manicure at a time. All these businesses that Kevin had dismissed as beneath him were thriving examples of sustainable, community-focused entrepreneurship. My phone buzzed with a text from the property manager. Kevin Henderson called. Wants to discuss payment arrangements. Should I proceed with standard terms? I typed back, standard terms. No special treatment. He's a tenant like any other. Kevin would have to earn his place in my building the same way every other business did, by operating responsibly, meeting his obligations and respecting the community he was part of. But for the first time in years, I felt hopeful about our relationship. Maybe this experience would teach him something valuable about business, about family, about the difference between image and substance. And maybe, just maybe, he'd learn that real success isn't about where you operate. It's about how you treat people, how you serve your community, and whether you can build something that creates value beyond your own ego. Even if that something operates from a strip mall.